can I welcome you all to the meeting of the Scrutiny Performance Panel for Education on this very sunny day. And could I ask Michelle if there are any apologies?
Yes, we've got apologies from Councillor Mike Day and the co-optee Beth Allender.
If there are any disclosures of any personal or prejudicial interests, if you could let Michelle know, and she will send out the template. I can't see it. Ah, yes, Sue has got her hand up, and James. Sue.
Just declaring interest. I'm a governor at Gowerton Secondary School, so declare an interest there.
Thank you, James.
Just to declare an interest that I'm an employee of Swansea University and in the engineering department, which is specifically mentioned in agenda item 7, where they're discussing introducing young people to engineering. I don't think it's going to bias things in any way, but just for full disclosure.
Thank you very much.
Sue, are you a local authority governor appointed by the local authority? That's great. Okay.
Great. Michelle will send the relevant forms out. Okay, so you can fill those in. The next item on the agenda is the minutes of the previous meetings. Are there any comments or any points you want to make? There are 2 sets. If not, I'll take that as that you find them a true record. I think, could I have a proposer? Oh, Sandra and Adam, proposer and seconder. Thank you very much. Letters from the previous meeting. Has anybody got any comment? Obviously, you've seen them from the meetings. You've seen them all. Okay, and I can't see any comments there. That's great. That is good. Public question time. No public questions have been received. So we move immediately on to the Swansea Skills Partnership annual update. And could I welcome Councillor Robert Smith, the Cabinet Member for Education and Learning, Helen Morgan-Rees, our Director, and David Bowden, the Strategic Coordinator for Education Skills. I don't know who wants to kick off. Do you want to kick off?
Well, if I can just briefly give some background to this. You, Chair, will remember when we both sat on I think it was the PDCs in those days, looking at policy development, and it was one of the things that was identified was the need for a forum to bring together various stakeholders and trying to coordinate not just post-16, but also perhaps wider 14 to 19 education opportunities in Swansea. We were aware of work that had gone on in the past and looking for a vehicle to take forward what I thought was an ambitious agenda that we envisaged, and in particular around vocational education and strengthening the links between education and the workplace. And I think that's part of the remit of the body. I think it is, because I attend the meetings, I think it is fulfilling many of what was set, the aims that were set for it. Dave will take us through the report, but I think obviously there are things that it needs to do again. There's further work, and I think the need for it is changing and evolving over the years. But I certainly think it is a valuable body that's been set up, and hopefully Dave's presentation will outline that, Chair.
Thank you, Robert. Helen has got a hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to draw panellists' attention to the appendix that accompanies this report. It does make reference to draft terms of reference. Those draft terms of reference have been updated more recently, and we have been able to include as part of our membership somebody who represents industries stroke local employers. So I just wanted to give the panel some assurance, because I know that's a question that's been raised in previous years when this has been scrutinised. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Helen. Certainly, it's something. I think this was a great idea when we actually brought this up at the then PDC, and I certainly raise it with councillors in other parts of Wales to say, what good work it actually does. David, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. The paper which you've had and has been circulated outlines where we are this year. I think I've attended these meetings for the last few years now with an update. So a background, as I think has already been alluded to, a background to the partnership is outlined in 1.1 from June 2018, where a partnership was put together with the aim to establish Swansea as one of the leading education locations in the UK, prioritising the wellbeing objective of ensuring that every child and young person in the city gains the skills and qualifications needed to succeed in life. And as Councillor Smith has just said, bringing together those key stakeholders within the city from different education institutions and organisations and partners to support in that work itself. As Helen said in the opening, 2.1 just outlines who those senior representatives are. And in particular, following a recognition of the need to have a greater link from business and from industry. Ian Price, who's the former director of the Confederation of Industry, the CBI in Wales, has joined the group and the partnership and has played an active part in supporting it. I think last time I met with yourselves last year, we presented a refreshed approach to the partnership with a 5-year plan. 2.3 just outlines what our 3 key priorities are, our strategic priorities, which are, and I'll read them out from 2.3, to develop stronger collaborative partnerships with employers. Secondly, to develop collaborative partnerships to explore the delivery of 14 to 16 vocational programmes from a place and provision perspective. And then thirdly, to establish collaborative partnerships to develop and deliver a wider range of high quality post-16 programmes. And then what I've done, the structure of the rest of the paper is to look at each of those priorities or work streams in turn to give you an update of where we are with them. And I feel that it's been a very productive year, that lots has happened and we've moved forward steadily with these work streams, which we're really excited about. And that's within the context of it being in year 2 of a 5-year plan itself. So the first work stream, which is one that we've paid particular attention to, is to develop stronger collaborative partnerships with employers. Rodri Jones leads on this work stream itself, but there have been some key changes to the work stream, which has moved it forward significantly. So 2.5 just points out that we've actually recruited or we've seconded from one of our schools a performance specialist for careers and work-related experiences. So Rachel Rimmer started with us in November 2024. And what she's done really is played a key role alongside myself in helping schools and settings to plan and design and implement careers and work-related experiences as a cross-cutting theme within Curriculum for Wales. It's a new cross-cutting theme. So there's been many teacher training events where she's gone into both primary schools and secondary schools to work with them and support teachers with this area, this cross-cutting theme. But secondly, really, as part of that role, it's been a pivotal role in strengthening those connections between Swansea schools and local and regional employers, which I'll go into in a moment. Alongside that, 2.6 just points out that we fully recognise Careers Wales and the Regional Learning and Skills Partnership as key partners within this work stream and this project, and we work very closely with both of those organisations to put together the piece of work that we're doing here. 2.8 then is an interesting development for this year, which we're quite excited about. This is something that we're calling the Swansea Pledge. And it is a pledge that businesses are making to work with our schools in any capacity that they feel that they can. So a smaller business, it could be to provide some resources to perhaps a role-playing area in a primary school, all the way up to perhaps a business with more capacity, being able to offer a week, 2-week, 6-week work placement for some of our older children, for example. To date, Rachel and myself, we've reached out to many of our local and regional businesses. 20 of those have signed the pledge to work with us and work with schools. Amongst those are businesses like, for example, the DVLA, Village Hotels, the Secret Hospitality Group, Kia Construction, Joe's Ice Cream, Magic Bean Coffee. There's got the franchise for Starbucks Coffee, Wilmot Dixon, Plantasia. So we've got quite a range of businesses who have already made a little bit more of a formal agreement to support and work with schools, whilst at the same time balancing that we understand it's a voluntary gesture of businesses to help and support us as well. So we work with them where they can. What we are going to do, or what we are in the latter stages of, so very, very soon, within the next couple of weeks, that will be showcased on a brand new website called My Choice Swansea, which we are going to promote and support with our local schools, both primary and secondary, so they can see the connections that they can make with local businesses and industry. And 2.9, I think, just points out an example of how what that looks like in practice is some of our primary schools, because careers and work-related experiences is now a part of the embedded curriculum, have started to put on their own careers fairs. So we were in Townhill Primary School very recently, who had about 20 different employers in. Many of those had come from the Swansea Pledge that Rachel had put them in contact with. And they did a sort of a speed dating type activity where the children moved around the 20 different employers, asking questions, having a few interactive activities and exploring what those employers could offer. And we attended it, and it was an excellent day. It was so well organized, so well put together, and I think the impact on the children was brilliant. That was the first time they'd done that. Many schools are following suit. Many primary schools are picking up and starting to do that, and we're really pleased to support them with the links with employers that we've been able to make. Alongside that, then there are things like workshops, tours, site visits. We've done tours of Swansea Arena, for example, looked at the backstage. Work experience opportunities, using employers for mock interviews, for example, CV writing. So the whole range of activity that a business or an industry could offer to schools, we are there to support them in their ability to do that. So it's an exciting part of this work stream. We're really looking forward to launching the website with our schools very recent, as soon as we can. And that's something that's fitted into that work stream. Do you want me to move on to work stream 2, or are there any questions particularly about that?
Okay, has anybody got any particular questions about that? Adam?
Yeah, obviously so far very positive in the report. I was just wondering, with regards to the Swansea Pledge, are you encouraging schools to reach out to sort of businesses in their immediate vicinity? Because as well as just careers and things like that, it can help pupils and students understand the different types of businesses. I know you spoke about the DVLA to Joe's in your example, so we've got public sector to a very famous locally run family business. Obviously there are lots of more business models in between, from cooperative to sort of multinational, and obviously we've got a lot of that in the city. So I was just wondering if you were encouraging schools to basically not just look out about careers, but also so that the pupils and students can understand that they're all basically what the different businesses from public sector to private are doing and how they function, because that will also help them understand what they can get out of the school. I was just wondering if that was something that could be considered.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and as our contacts grow and that pledge expands, so we've got more business and more industry willing to help. We can work more with individual schools to look at the local needs and what employers there are in that local area to support them in a more perhaps bespoke or individual way. But yeah, absolutely. You know, like I said, kind of like year two of a 5-year plan. So perhaps as the years progress, that is something that we would like to see, is that local employers are really feeding into their local schools and local networks.
Thanks. I think thanks, Adam. A really good point. But move that on as well. How do we may need in some cases give a hand to local schools to do that, because it isn't something they probably signed up for, and therefore it could be new to some of them, and it would be helpful to give that helping hand to those schools to make sure that that actually is happening. But no, really good, and a really good point by Adam about that, because I think it's we have got a completely range of businesses in Swansea, and really good news to see already that some of them are engaging there. That's good news.
Yeah, and a real willingness and appetite from businesses to want to help and support schools as well. And like you say, I think we've got there's a little bit of capacity within our team now to help support schools to do that piece of work, and encourage them to take ownership of it as well. So we're trying to strike that balance between allowing a school to take ownership and to put something on, but also providing the support that we can give through these contacts with businesses, for example, and being present and helping out where we can, and using the experience that myself and then Rachel's got as well from different backgrounds to help that happen.
What about people who might want to become self-employed? When we went to Dylan Thomas School, we saw that they'd put a hairdressing salon in, for example. So is there any help for children who might want to do that, or become a plumber or whatever,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're looking at, entrepreneurial skills and looking at those skills of starting up a business, for example. We attended the For the Region event in the arena, where one day was all about people who started their own business and their own local activities, and we're sort of encouraging children to do that as well. There's good resource out there from Careers Wales in terms of entrepreneurship. And we've also got Craig Vellin as well, one of the school that leads on a big enterprise project that we're helping to support as well.
Thank you. Right, any other questions? Otherwise, we'd like to go on to the second section. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, the second work stream then was to develop collaborative partnerships to explore the delivery of 14 to 16 vocational programs from a place and provision perspective. So within this work stream, what we're doing really is looking forward to 2027, which is the year when a new set of vocational qualifications will become available for teaching within our secondary schools. And what we want to do really is get behind that and to support our schools with that vocational delivery, using the expertise, the skills, the facilities that we have from across the city. So that might be drawing on things like you've already mentioned, the salon that's been built in Dylan Thomas, for example, with hairdressing, but also things within Gower College that they might be able to offer in terms of their FE provision and how they can support schools as well. So within this work stream, the bit of work that we've done is we continue to map out and we continue to audit our schools to see what is currently being offered in terms of vocational provision, to make sure they're meeting the needs of their young people, for example. We're pleased to see that when we keep an eye on ESTIN reports and ESTIN inspections, and 2.11 points this out as well, that it's often seen as a strength in our secondary schools, the broad and balanced curriculum that is offered for our Key Stage 4 pupils, our Year 10 and 11 young people, and the links that they make with businesses, and the breadth of choice within the curriculum as well. So we're really pleased with that. 2.12 just points out a little bit more from the new vocational qualifications. There will be the streamlining what's already on offer. So there'll be 15 new vocational qualifications, and there's a link to them in the report, so you can see what they are exactly. And we're working in partnership with schools to look at how we can help support that further. We are waiting at the moment for the specs to be written, so we know the detail of what's happening within each of those qualifications themselves. But in preparation for that, we've set up networks within our schools, with different schools chairing those networks. Currently, we have a network for health and care, we have a network for media, we have a teachers network for performing arts, and a new network this year was established for hospitality and catering, with links to food and nutrition, which a part of Curriculum for Wales will be there as well. And then looking forward to next academic year, where we would look to establish a network for construction and engineering, so our teachers can be working alongside some of the businesses as well. We've mentioned this, we're talking about the first work stream, talking to, for example, the Secret Hospitality Group. They're very keen to be involved in the hospitality and catering network, so they can communicate and they can pass that information on that they have with our schools. So there's that. 2.15 relates to Gower College's Green Hub that was opened last academic year. And I think I reported on that in the last report. That continues to be successful. We've got many of our schools using the facility for landscaping, horticulture, and eco-construction for our 14 to 16-year-olds who use that facility. Moving forward, we look at how that aligns itself with the new VCSEs. There is one in nature restoration, and there will be one in agriculture, horticulture, and forestry. So we look at how that will align itself once we know the specs and the detail of that. To keep up to speed on what's going on, there's a senior leaders network meeting that happens once a term, and also with a conference that I chair. And we regularly ask Qualifications Wales, Welsh Government officers, WJC to attend those meetings to keep us up to date on what's happening with the VCSEs and how we are moving and how we are changing our qualification structures to be more aligned with Curriculum for Wales and the differences that are happening moving forward. 2.16 then just says that in the previous academic year, we piloted some events with Swansea University and Trinity St David's with engineering and construction. A colleague in Swansea University, who I think no longer works there, Laura, helped us with the engineering events, and our colleagues in Trinity St David's with the other events as well, construction, health, and engineering. And those have continued this year. We didn't want them just to be a pilot, a one and done. They've continued this year, and they've grown and we've strengthened them, and we've continued the communication between ourselves, our schools, and our HE providers to strengthen those, which have happened really well. And then I did put in for 2.17 or 2.17. There was an excellent pilot event by the Regional Learning Skills Partnership in Alpha School fairly recently for engineering, digital and construction, which will certainly feed into the new VCSEs when they're available, and that's happened more recently. And what we would hope is that we can replicate that in other secondary schools using some of the contacts that we've made from Workstream 1 that I've talked about previously. So that's the second work stream.
Great, thank you very much. And really good news actually. And when you mentioned the vented offer, once you've got one, you can mirror others and you can always improve as well. Always you can see and you can think, God, I wish I'd done this, and so on. So it's a really good learning curve, and it's great that that's happened. Are there any questions for David? Sandra.
Hi. Am I right that the vocational qualifications are going to start to be delivered in 27 with the end results, the first one in 29 then? Yeah. I'm just wondering, some of these are quite specialised areas. Gower College is set up for hairdressing, catering and so on. We've got 7 secondary schools with 6 forms, and some of that stuff is going to be way beyond them, both in terms of their staffing and their expertise, but also in terms of the facilities that they have. I mean, we've got one school with a hairdressing facility. I don't know if Morriston still has, I think they have. But there are many others that haven't, and the same with, you know, something like engineering can be offered in the tech departments and so on. But catering, for example, is not food. Catering requires special kit, special equipment, and is very different to a home economics room in a school. Is there funding available? Is there a consideration that these will be offered in school, or will there be certain ones that are college only?
I think, yeah, good question. I think that's something we are exploring further. Gower College is a strong partner at the table within this partnership, and is very keen to get involved and to support where they can and how they can. I think probably we'd need to see the detail in those specs to know exactly what sort of facilities, equipment, expertise, etc., that we might need. All I can say at the moment, there is a strong appetite to support and work together, along with our HE providers as well, actually, to make it happen and to make that work. But I think there is a recognition as well that some of that expertise, facilities, experience may not currently be present, and how we tackle that moving forward in terms of funding for that is probably a question we need to explore further.
These students are going to, I can imagine it's going to be a popular choice, you see. And that's why I'm asking, because we're either going to end up with a system where we're bussing kids around or the facilities need to be there for, or you're going to end up, you know, maybe having certain areas of expertise in different places. And I just wondered what the model is. And as you say, I understand we've probably got to wait for the specs.
Robert.
Yeah, I echo what David is saying. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to put the meat on the bone here. I'm old enough to remember 14 to 19 learning pathways, which was a brilliant initiative. I even remember Kenneth Baker's TVEI, although I was in school at the time. I mean, you're too young to remember that. It was the Technical and Vocational Education Initiative. And I mean, these things have been around for a long time. And I think, we've got to learn from past experience, not past mistakes, but learn from past experience. I think Dave is absolutely right that there is a big appetite for collaboration. The college wants to help, but of course it's got its own responsibilities, and it's got to make sure that it can't subsidise the school system. We need to build the capacity in schools where that's appropriate. So I think it's going to be a mixture of different things. One thing or two things which I would emphasize. First of all, we don't want this to be a kind of alternative curriculum for learners who the school doesn't think are suited for an academic curriculum for whatever reason, or for behaviour reasons, whatever. This needs to be something that is offered to all children and young people, because it's vital that they do have that that vocational learning experience. And the other thing I would say is we don't want vocational education to be something about learning about a career. It's about hands-on. It's about the practical experience, because otherwise I think we're going to lose something if we do that. So I think there are things there for qualifications wheels, for the exam bodies, for Welsh Government to think through as well. But I think we are on a journey with this. But let's learn from past experience and build on that, is what I would say.
that okay for you? Great. Any other questions? Nothing in the room, nothing online. So great. David, work stream 3.
Okay, so the third work stream, where we focus now more on post-16, was to establish collaborative partnerships to develop and deliver a wide range of high-quality post-16 programs. So within this, what our aim is, what we want all post-16 learners to be able to access worthwhile qualifications and progress to further learning, education or training, or of course in employment, as well as widening the choice of courses and improving equality of opportunity. So we've got a network group, or we've got a group of post-16 leads from each of our sixth forms, along with Gower College, that we meet once a term. And discuss and look at this. In terms of partnership working, we have very strong partnership working between Goir and Bryn Tawy, Welsh medium sixth forms, who almost operate a single sixth form between them, which is excellent. And that has gone from strength to strength and continues to do so. And the other very successful partnership and collaboration is between Morriston and Bishop Vaughan School, who, again, that has gone from strength to strength, I think, year in, year out, as time has progressed. And the element within this, within that network group that we wanted to explore, was the offer of online or hybrid learning activities. So as a group, we got together and we looked at subjects that perhaps were schools, sixth forms, and sometimes the college maybe were finding it difficult to deliver within their own institutions because numbers were very small, and was difficult to staff, and the capacity was difficult there. So the offer that we offered in September 2024, and we will offer again for September 2025, is outlined in 2.23, which are 4 A-level choices: A-level in classical civilization, A-level in further maths, and A-level in French, and A-level in Welsh. And a different sixth form or college were stepped forward to be able to offer those qualifications, where they would be taught within the classroom, and that lesson would be recorded or could be streamed live, so that young people who were in a different sixth form or college were able to then participate and be part of. So the numbers are small. They aren't big on these. It's something that Bishop Vaughan had begun a few years ago, and they have what's called the National Catholic Virtual Sixth Form College Consortium, which is a bit of a mouthful when I read it back like that. But there are a number of sixth forms and colleges across South Wales who participate in that. So that was opened up to our other schools as well. The one that's been the most successful is the A-level Welsh second language. So A-level Welsh second language would not be delivered in 3 of our schools unless we had this online opportunity, this online option. So Alpha School take the lead on that. Alpha deliver second language Welsh, and we have a young person from Gowerton and 2 young people originally from Morriston who participate in that lesson online through an online process. So we're supported by Ysgol, which is a Welsh Government organisation to help support with things like the tech, the pedagogy behind teaching in an online way, in an online manner, learning from good practice from elsewhere throughout Wales, etc. That's been very successful. Unfortunately, the French didn't run this year, and the other 2 classics and further maths run within Bishop Vaughan and the other Catholic schools. No Swansea schools participated in that. So that's where we are with that. We're continuing to talk about it and have those conversations, look at how that might look moving forward. The big challenge, I think, with the whole online provision is collaborative timetables, sharing timetables across schools. where the schools are teaching lower school as well, and syncing and doing that is a challenge. We've made it work. We've worked together to make it work with the Welsh second language, but it certainly is a challenge for schools to offer that shared timetable model for certain A levels when numbers are very small anyway. So that's where we are with that one. Okay.
Thank you. Any questions, David? No, can't see any hands up. So could I say thank you very much? We've come a long way, actually, from when the bones of this were put together. Oh, I beg your pardon. I can see Fiona. Yes, Fiona. Sorry, apologies.
Sorry. Thanks. No, sorry, it took me a while to get my hand up. Thanks. It's really good to hear about all these good links being built and maintained. I just wondered how in terms of post-16, how much are our learners with additional learning needs taken into consideration when we're thinking about appropriate courses and so on? It's great to hear about students being able to access A-level courses that they perhaps couldn't have without these links across the county and with our FEIs, but I just wondered how much that is being considered, and how are the relationships with our FEIs in terms of meeting those ALN post-16, because I know under ALNet the responsibilities for local authorities have changed, and some things that Welsh Government previously did we have to do as a local authority and so on in terms of funding post-16 places. So yeah, I just wondered how that fits in with all this.
Yeah, we have a lead within the local authority to support with the post-16, the ALN post-16 transition from school onto what happens next. Each of our FEIs, and I talk about Gower College, but also Coleg Cigar and Neath Port Talbot have got very, I think, strong and sophisticated ways of supporting young people with additional learning needs. We've made sure as well, earlier on I mentioned My Choice, which is our platform to support the transition of young people when they leave school, as well as linking up with local business and industry. We've made sure that we've got on there signposting and links to the additional learning needs support that a young person can get or can achieve through those links, and all our schools are have their own elencos to support that as well within their schools, and they would be helping and supporting the sixth form as well.
Thank you.
Is that okay, Fiona?
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, great.
Yeah, just to kick off, Chair, because I've seen the presentation and I'd like to thank Kelly and Louise for the work that's gone into preparing the presentation, and also for what they are going to be presenting this afternoon, because I said it in full council a few meetings ago. I pay tribute to the commitment of the officers delivering this programme. None of this is easy. It takes time. All of us, including myself, want to see things delivered as fast as we can, and a lot faster than is humanly possible. But there is work that has to be done, and I think what the presentation will show is the amount of preparation and the work that goes on before things come to fruition, before the tenders are even called for. And I think Louise will take us. I think it's Louise will take us through that. What I will tell you, but I've said in front of her, I know when I ask Louise and Kelly a question, I will get the answer I need. It might not be the answer I want, but it's certainly the answer I need, and I think that's a very valuable thing in the relationship with officers, that we're able to rely on the advice that we're having from them, and I know I will be getting sound advice. So it's over to the team, Jeff.
Great, thank you very much, Kelly and Louise.
Okay, good afternoon. Could everybody see that? Good. Okay, so I'll try not to labour too much through some of the slides. The programme overview, we've shared this with you before, the scope of Band A and then Band B. The programme envelope was increased to 176 million for Band B, and we delivered a committed of that 53.8 million, with the remainder being rolled forward to the new programme. The capital intervention rate is set out there. That still remains unchanged, with 65% for mainstream schools and then 75% for ALN, special schools, PRUs, etc. And voluntary aided schools at 85%. I've skipped over them because we don't have any LIM projects. So Band B officially ended on the 31st of March, and we, along with all other authorities, were invited to submit our new strategic outline rolling programme, which we did, and then that was approved in principle for projects in years 1 to 6 by Welsh Government in August 2024. That programme is a 9-year programme, so years 7 to 9 is very much more aspirational, I suppose, and forward look. What they did make clear was that in their approval is that we would have to carry out Welsh language impact assessments for projects linked to local development plan strategic sites, and also that programme has to be revised every 3 years. So we're already, believe it or not, over a year into that period. So the overarching programme was considered by Cabinet in February of last year, when the key aims and focus were endorsed in principle. And the total estimated cost of that programme across the 9 years is just over 400 million. And you can see we've broken that down there in between, the bulk of that being 383 million, excluding net zero carbon. That's because there is an element of funding at 100% to support net zero for their operational carbon and embodied carbon targets. That endorsement and approval in principle of the programme is, of course, subject to individual business cases. There is, in most cases, a 3-stage business case process for projects, and also Cabinet approval, usually at those same milestones. I think I might skip to page, yeah. So in terms of the projects that are in progress, we've got Ysgol Gyfun Gymraeg Bryntawy, which is one of the projects that we initiated as part of Band B. This is a project to provide an additional 248 Welsh medium secondary places. We were also successful in securing some additional Welsh medium grant funding to support that project aligned with the aims of our WESP. And there was also a community focused schools grant in relation to external pitch provision for that project. The pre-construction stage 1 contract was awarded in November 2024 to Andrew Scott Limited. So that design phase is now in progress, and we are expecting to move towards a stage 2 contract award in around May 2026, which gives us a construction phase of between 2026 and 2029. Excuse me. Garrison School, which is a part new build, replacing substandard demountables, and a further block addressing condition suitability and accessibility, had its joint strategic outline business case approved by Welsh Government in January of this year. We have gone out to tender now for the pre-construction phase contract, with the expectation then that that tender will be awarded in the autumn, and that would potentially lead us to the construction phase contract award being made early in 2027, and the construction phase being 2027 to 2030. Progress with the new special school. There is a report going to Cabinet next week, I think it is, in regard to the commitment to funding for the next stage to enable us to appoint, the first stage contractor to take us to construction phase. We have an approved SOC already. The amalgamation of Ysgol Pen-y-Bryn and Ysgol Crw Glas has been determined, and we are currently expecting the stage 2 contract award early in 2027, with that start on site actually also being early in 2027. The former Daniel James site, which is linked to the proposed new build for Bishop Vaughan Catholic School. The BJC, which was a single business case process, was approved in February of last year. And in that period, there have been site investigations, ecology assessments, and then preparation of tender documents. We are expecting to be in a position to go out to tender for that demolition next month, with a contract start early in February 26. The point being there that in that period there is obviously the procurement process, the tender evaluation, the procurement processes, and obviously that contract award. You'll note that there we say demolition August 26. The reason for that is that the initial work in terms of the demolition will involve the asbestos removal, which won't be as visible. It won't look like the building's coming down, although it will be part of that process. Other projects currently in wave 3, we have the new Welsh medium primary school in the Garden Village area. Noted there that is dependent on developer progress and receipt of the developer contribution. So we are not in control of those timescales. So that is quite challenging for us at the LDP site, sort of in terms of work planning and anticipating what we need to do when considering the terms of the Section 106s and developer contributions. And then also the rationalisation of Clydach Primary School onto the junior site. The aim is to start the early work on that this calendar year. Wave 2, we have the new build for Bishop Vaughan Catholic School on the former Daniel James site. We have started to progress that work, and we now have an approved strategic outline case from Welsh Government. The pre-construction stage 1 contract, the aim is that we work towards the tender with a view to an award of contract for that pre-construction stage early in 2026. That would give us a stage 2 contract award, i.e. construction phase, early in 2027. That is quite a complex project because there are lots of interdependencies there, because we're obviously working very closely with the diocese. Other stakeholders around the site, including Pure Football. And so there is the process of managing those interdependencies and interlinkages to enable us to move forward to that stage 1 contract award. And then this is really new in terms of this meeting. We're highlighting here where we have signed 106 agreements for new builds in the LDP site strategic site master plans. That includes already referred to strategic site B in Garden Village, where there is provision of a 2.5 elementary primary school via a contribution of 5.5 million. Strategic site C in Penflagare, again a 2.5 elementary primary school, and then strategic site D, Kevin de Volach, the most significant site with ultimately, as and when built out, 1,950 units. But obviously the trajectory for that and how long that will take for that site to progress, that will be quite some time. And as I reiterated earlier, how fast we bring those projects forward very much depends upon developer progress. And then the other sites that we have, for which we do not yet have signed Section 106 agreements, include strategic site A in Pontedilai, strategic site E in Pantlasai, and strategic site H. Programmes, risks and issues, they are largely the same as we've reported them in previous years. Capacity and resilience within the council, so obviously not only within our own education teams, but that is impacted by corporate building services, legal, procurement, finance, etc. Capacity and resilience outside the authority. We do now have a new South Wales regional contractors framework, which is good because we have a full complement of contractors in each of the lots. Always there, possible funding risks, whether that be local or national. Mentioned before, obviously, developer contributions and timing and certainty. And something that we're seeing coming through at the moment, the significant inflationary pressures. We are seeing our cost plans being increased at quite some significant rate at the moment. And it's always very difficult when we're at this stage with the major projects, because we do undertake cost plan reviews, and of course we actually really don't know what it's going to cost us until we get those tender prices in. So it's based upon the industry information and data that we have at that point in time, but that's certainly what we're seeing at the moment. So some of the other projects funded by other grants, etc. So universal free school meals. I have to say this has been a very challenging and difficult programme. We have completed the provision of works or equipment across 74 of 80 schools. We have one remaining school being Hubbard, where we have some further works to do there of a smaller scale, but we're waiting for the completion of some of the major projects before that's able to be properly assessed. And then we have major projects, Town Hill, Brynhafred, Winewen, Males, and St Joseph's primary schools. St Joseph's Primary School, we're in the process of a partial handover. Males, we are in the process of awarding the tender for the works at Males Primary School. Winewen, we are about to go out to tender. And in the case of Brynhafred and Town Hill, there is more detailed work going on in consideration of one of the factors that we are seeing. As I mentioned earlier, those are bigger projects, and we are seeing those inflationary pressures. Community focused schools. We have largely completed all of the works relating to the grant for 2022-23, which is what I would refer to as an allocated grant, whereby we were given an allocation of funding that we then determined how we were going to spend that in consideration of the grant terms and conditions. The 2023-24-25 funding was based upon an expression of interest, so it was more targeted with a smaller number of projects. The first of those, Bryn Tawy, is tied in with the main project, and that is being designed and will be subject to the stage 2 tenders that will be undertaken as part of those main works. Similarly, Town Hill Primary School, that will be tied in with the Universal Free School Meals project. Ultra 3G is completed, and then there are a smaller number of projects that are some are complete and some are still in progress. We have been invited to submit a further expression of interest for further funding in the 2025-26 financial year. So that is due to be submitted tomorrow. The challenge there is that the invitation to submit an expression of interest in May, when clearly it will take a little bit of time for that to be determined by Welsh Government and then spend that funding within the financial year. That is, unless there is a project, which there isn't, that is already significantly in progress, is obviously very difficult. So part of our case there, certainly in relation to part of that expression of interest, will obviously be trying to make a case for that funding to be extended into the subsequent financial year. Additional learning needs, again, we've had a series of smaller grants, which are now largely completed in terms of previous years, although in terms of the last year's allocation being similar to the previous 2 years, around 1.4 million, we had unallocated just over 200,000, but we are managing any unspent grant so that we can effectively roll that forward into the current financial year so we can complete that round of projects. And that ALEN grant funding has been aligned with the STF review. We have just received or recently received notification of further allocation for the current financial year. We haven't yet received that grant award, so it's currently a work in progress to identify and scope potential projects for that funding. Childcare and early years programme. I won't go through them line by line in terms of the 2024-25 business cases, but in that case, all of those projects have now been completed. And then in terms of the most recent expression of interest, more detailed business cases are in the process of being prepared and submitted to Welsh Government for consideration. And then finally, capital maintenance. There is just a record here of the investment in previous years. In 24-5, there was capital maintenance work on 31 schools. There was a Welsh Government grant award of 0.5 million, specifically for the education asset that was awarded very late in the previous year, and that was therefore rolled forward effectively for expenditure in the last financial year. And there was also a local capital maintenance allocation, of course, of 3.21 million, of which a minimum of 1.34 million was allocated to schools, and a Welsh Government grant award very late again in the financial year of 2.9 million. A considerable proportion of that has been committed or spent, but again, we've worked so that we are able to effectively offset and roll that forward to this current financial year to complete those works identified for last year's Welsh Government capital maintenance grant. A similar picture this year, obviously, in terms of the local capital maintenance allocation. We have been given an indication that we could expect a further Welsh Government capital maintenance grant award this year. We haven't received any sort of formal notification of that. However, in the background, we are trying to plan so that should we get notification of that, we're at least in the best position as we can be to try and take that forward. And that's it. I hope that was whistle stop was okay.
Great, thank you, Louise, for quite a thorough report. So thank you very much. Have we got any questions? I can't see any hands up. Oh, that's better. There we are. Adam, sorry, in the room. Adam, I'm looking online here. Adam, yeah.
Yeah, just in relation to one of the potential developments that admittedly is in my ward. I know it says programs and risks, and that when it comes to development, I appreciate that you are at the mercy of developers when cash needs to be sort of front and forward. But are there any tools or mechanisms that you can deploy to sort of mitigate the risk, to try and, whether it's monitoring the pace of development and when a development's coming up to a threshold, so you can sort of have a better idea on timeframes, anything like that? I was just wondering if it's a question of there's stuff that can be done to maybe encourage or just let a developer know that you're anticipating an arrival, or whether we are just at their mercy.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you,
think.
Adam.
Sorry. Shall I answer that?
Yeah, go on, Louise. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I think the reality is we are at their mercy. You know, I don't think we can influence or encourage or sort of control anything that they do. But what we have done, we've effectively created project plans depending upon the details of the Section 106 agreements and triggers. So, you know, for example, a Section 106 might say you get 200,000 at 75 dwellings and 2 million at 200, and then another 2 million at 500 or something. So we've created a project plan based upon that, and then applied assumptions as to what the build rate is, which the assumption that we're working on is, I think, 75 dwellings per year. But of course, that could go more quickly, or it could go more slowly, or they could actually just stop. So it's we are monitoring it, and we also work quite closely with planning colleagues in doing so.
Come in, Chair. I mean, obviously Adam and myself represent the same ward, so it's the same issues that we're facing. And I think one of the things, as Louise has described, the Section 106 is worded that there are certain trigger points for each payment, and I think that the department is the directorate rather is working and planning according to that, and I think that's going to be crucial in realizing this. But you know, the same as you, we know that school is needed. That's why it's in the Section 106. But we can't control the rate at which houses are built.
Okay, Adam, do you want to come back?
Yeah, no, I just want to thank the department for their answer and appreciate their honesty, that their hands are tied largely by developers, and it's an issue that maybe stems sort of from higher, more national legislation, and that we have to deal with it. So I just appreciate the honesty. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Louise, if I may, you mentioned a number of strategic sites, but when you came to H, it was just, you didn't say where that site was.
Gosh, I thought somebody would ask me that. My geographic skills are really poor. It's sort of the Cocket Wynarloedd location.
Are there any other questions? No, nothing online as well, nothing in the room. So thank you very much, Louise, for that, you know, obviously thorough report. So thank you very much, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Cheerio.
And we move on to the final item on the agenda, which is the end of year review of what we've been doing. And from me, there's a couple of things that I might mention. One or two things that we put up as a possible during the course of the year and didn't do was cookery, the school meals service. Cookery in schools was another one. And during the course of, we picked up an issue which is, I think, a UK-wide issue, but on reading. And I think it may be something that we could look at this year. And the other one is on careers, which we picked up today. So those are my thoughts, but open to the panel. Over to you. Any thoughts? Well, what's what's gone well, and what do you think we didn't do so well? Because nothing's ever perfect. And did the panels work focus on the right things? And but to kick off with, those are a few sort of things you might come up with. There we are. James has got his hand up.
Yeah, I think I suspect most of the panel members probably feel a little bit like I do, in that broadly the subjects and topics that we've been covering have broadly been the right ones. I just thought I'd throw an additional comment that we as councillors just need to be a little bit careful with the school visits, because the Dylan Thomas visit was really light on councillors, and when the staff have kind of gone to the effort of arranging and presenting in person, I was just worried there was a situation there where we could have only had one or two of us present. But I think that's just a diary and logistics thing. If people can be a bit more proactive about their apologies, I guess.
Totally agree. And it is important. And I very often think that when you actually do the school visits, you're actually at the chalk face, and you can really see what's going on, and you know a lot more and learn a lot more by looking at that than listening to a report. So obviously it is important. I appreciate the diary problems for everyone, but it is important to when we do have a school visit, that we actually try and get as many people along as possible, many councillors along as possible, because we might not think too much, but for the school it can be quite a big thing where we are turning up there, so it is vital. I think there was we've got to schedule in during the course of, and we'll look at we'll work with Michelle, because she can get round to people, but we need to reschedule the Morriston one, because July isn't going to work, because we need, as you say, James, a really good attendance. So that is important. And we had one today, which I believe James, you got in touch with us about, and that was Bryn Hyfryd primary. So that's one. The other thing that I think is important, when we've done we've gone out to a comprehensive school and looked at the cluster that work with them, and they all work in a different way. But it's really useful to see that and actually go out and see it, rather than do it on Teams and meet up with them. And I think we did Bishop Gore, wasn't it, and this year, and that was a really interesting visit, and to see the good work that was going on there. So any thoughts, anyone? Otherwise, what we will do is we'll look to put a draft program together for you to have a look at, and very often when you see that, you can then think of, gosh, I think this might be a good idea, or whatever, when you see something in writing. And of course we'll chat with Helen as well, because we want her to be rightly involved with that, because she can point us in the right direction, and also about some things that might be coming up as well. So if there aren't any other points on that, we will. I'd like to draw the meeting to a close, and we'll be in touch about that. Michelle wants to just say something before I finish.
Yeah, just wanted to catch everyone as well. You would have received an email from Bridge about a survey. If I could encourage you to fill it out if you can, because it's quite important, and we use that to improve the services. So I'll send it around to you all again tomorrow, just in case you've lost it. So if you get a chance to complete it, can you? Thank you.
Yeah, that's important, and of course we've just had notice of the Scrutiny Programme Conference that's coming up, and if you can attend that as well. Can I thank you all? Can I particularly thank Robert and Helen, because you're loyal attenders, and your contributions, because you're in at the heart of it. So it really is important. So thank you very much indeed, and thank you all. And for some of you, or some of us, have a safe journey home. Otherwise, you may be at home, but wherever you are, enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.